Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Only One Hotspur podcast. Again, it's just me and Wes, and today we're going to be reviewing the Crystal Palace game, which obviously secured us the Europa League football for next season. Wes, I'm going to come straight over to you. Probably isn't too much to actually say on the game itself, truth be told, but what did you make of the game?
Well, like you said, it wasn't a spectacle, was it? I think. I didn't watch Match of the Day, but I think it would have been one of the last ones on Match of the Day, if not the last one. Yeah. Listen, it's said this before. I think it's the style v substance debate, which I'm sure we'll come on to again. But listen, we ended up getting the job done and got what we needed with the help of Chelsea as well to get us into Europe for next season. I think even Harry Kane said in the interview after the game that perhaps we didn't play well, and hearing the score from the Chelsea game meant that the game plan had changed a little bit, which after he said that, you can sort of see where he's coming from in that respect. Because the second half, we just tried to see the game out. Unfortunately for us, we managed to do it. But the thing is, for me, it's like, Palace weren't in the greatest of form going into the game. I think they'd won one game since the restart, one win in 7, something like that, and we gave them a lot of respect, and I think they dominated a lot of the game. I don't think they had sort of too many chances really, but they got into a lot of attacking areas. So I guess that's a credit to our defending for a change. But yeah, it wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination. But in the end, got what we needed, got the job done. And here we go. Thursday nights are back.
Seem thrilled about that last part there. Uh, now, I think, obviously, you mentioned about the substance versus style debate, but I think Harry Kane has sort of said it in his interview. No, I don't think it was clicking against Palace. It wasn't really, was it? It was a bit of a scrappy game first half, and what memory I've got of it, because it was that boring of a game. Like, them sort of games just do flood from your memory, don't they? But it wasn't like a pretty game, and it never really is against Palace. So I think, I guess you do go in at half time, and if you have heard the score, you know, as Jose Mourinho just wanted to get into that European place. That was his aim. That was his job, pretty much. And he's done that. And as I've said before, I obviously don't want to be playing this football for a long period of time. If it was just for that period of time since the restart, the project restart, however you want to call it, and then we go into the new season playing more exciting football again, I can live with that, because he's gone in and he's got us European football next season. Yes, it's the Europa League, but I think, as I've said, that will still help the club. You're getting young players to get the opportunity. Whether, obviously, there's rumours that Skip and Parrott will be going out on loan. But you've got Dennis Churkin, you've got Harvey White, Ryan Sessegnon, who hasn't really got much of a look in. You've got players like that who I think could thrive in that, getting more games, getting more confidence. Obviously, the teams you're playing up against aren't necessarily the best. Not trying to say. Obviously, you do get some very good teams in the Europa League. Don't get me wrong. But I was looking at the fixtures, the last part, which are happening in a few weeks. You've got Roma, you've got Sevilla. They're not bad teams. Obviously, you've got Wolves in there as well. You've got United. So United will probably get a penalty every game again. But Um, but yeah, I'm not too bothered by that. I think Europa League football I can live with, considering where we was at. I think you've got to look at it where we was when Jose sort of came in, and like it's and at the restart, I think yeah, I'll take it. I know it's not the best, and we're sort of used to Champions League football now, but it's a chance to win a trophy. You know, it's as simple as that. I think there's more chance of us winning this. Yes, we got to the final obviously last year, but I think you look at the Europa League, you think, yeah, there is more chance of winning that. I think, everyone would agree. Jose Mourinho's been in the competition twice. He's won it twice, which he reminds us of every interview he does. So, it's not a bad record. And hopefully we don't break that record either. But, yeah, I don't mind that too much, to be perfectly honest with you. But, yeah. So, did you have anything to say on that, or?
Not really. I don't think there's too much I can sort of add on it. I thought the celebrations after the game were a bit much, if I'm honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd love to see the celebrations if we actually bloody win something, because those celebrations looked like we were celebrating, and I'm like, hold on a minute. Arsenal used to celebrate like that when they finished fourth, and they'd, everyone used to give them a load of abuse for it. And it's like, well, we're doing that. We're celebrating in that kind of way for finishing sixth. But then I guess from Jose's perspective, it's that celebration of a target's been achieved against a lot of odds, perhaps, with the injuries and since the turn of the year. And COVID happening. I think it's a decent achievement, the fact we've got Europe at the very least. I think it's a decent achievement. I wouldn't say it's a great achievement, but I think it's a decent achievement. So I guess that's what they were celebrating. But yeah, when I saw it, I was just there like, really? Like what? Klopp got berated with abuse for doing the hand thing at home when they drew 2-2 to West Brom. You know what I mean? It just sort of gave me that similar sort of vibe, and it was just like, what are you doing? Like, just shake hands with, or fist pump or whatever we're doing these days. Just and then just get on with it. You can celebrate like that behind closed doors, but it was just a bit of a weird one seeing it, because like I say, there's been other clubs that have celebrated other things and got massive stick from plenty of Spurs fans, and amongst other clubs fans. And yeah, that was just the strange one for me, that those celebrations. I was just like, well, we haven't. It was almost as if we'd celebrated finishing sixth and that was a trophy, but it's not a trophy, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. We don't really know what a trophy is like. I better say that joke before someone else does. Let's face the facts.
I'd rather someone put that in the comments section on YouTube, Joe. I'm not going
to lie. But yeah, look, we'll move on from that. Because I agree with that. It was a bit weird. I can sort of see why he's done it, but it isn't exactly the best thing to see. Yeah. But yeah, like what players stood out for you? We'll start off with obviously Palace, because they were the home team. What players stood out to you?
bit of a weird one, because the game itself wasn't exactly like there wasn't. I don't even think you could call a man of the match, really, because it was just that kind of game.
I agree.
I thought the wingers, the wide guys, looked a bit of a threat, but then they always sort of do. But sometimes they sort of flatter to deceive, because they get into attacking areas and they look dangerous, but then the end product isn't always there. And, said on the preview, that's one of the things I think that's let Zaha down over his career, really. And whatnot. I think Jordan Ayew didn't really stop running, but that's his usual self. It was quite interesting, the commentary from Tony Gale saying about the young fullback perhaps getting a bit too tight and that he needed an experienced player to get him through the game. But if your winger keeps doing you, then you might have to just hold off a little bit, maybe give them a yard, and then go and look to engage the ball. But yeah, it was just, my feelings on Sky and their coverage anyway. So we won't go into those details for this one because don't want to really go over that again. Because I might end up turning grey after this. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. It was quite strange. I don't think much really happened. Like I say, the front line for Palace, I guess, looked to threat, and Ayew didn't really stop running. But yeah, and then I think for Spurs, I thought Kane had a better game. I think he was more involved than perhaps he was against Newcastle, and stuff like that. I thought his performance against Leicester was decent for 45 minutes, but then I thought the game against Leicester was decent for 45 minutes. So yeah, that was that. I thought Kane was just that little bit more involved in our build-up play. Lucas again put in a decent shift. Seems to be doing that majority of games that he plays. Just want to see a little bit more, perhaps in the attacking parts. I think that is pretty much it, Joe. To be honest, like everybody else, I just think had a 6 out of 10. It was one of those games from both sides, really. Just think majority of players had one of those like 6 bang average 6 out of 10 sort of games. I don't know if you
5 out of 10. Really.
Yeah, I don't know if you think anything different or want to mention anyone else.
Well, I'm going to say, and just hold off before you say anything here, because it might not be for the reason you think. Wilfried Zaha stood out. That's just because he was on the floor every 2 minutes and moaning all the time. Like, I tell you what, I've never seen someone moan so much in my life. Like, I'm not being funny, mate. Like, your fans should be moaning at you. You're meant to be worth £18 million, apparently. That's what he's valued at. All season, he got 4 goals and 3 assists, and he's worth 80 million. Are you having me on? Does that mean like Solanke now is like worth like 40 because he had 2 goals against Leicester the other week? Like, it's a joke. Like,
it's interesting you mentioned that because there's been a bit of a comparison between Sancho and Grealish in terms of potentially going to Man United. Sancho has scored 20 goals this season. Grealish only got 10, and Sancho got 20 assists, and I think Grealish only got 8. Yet they are rumoured to be in and around the same sort of price bracket as well. So yeah, just thought I'd throw that one in there as well.
Yeah, obviously, but I just don't get Zaha. I've always thought he's a bit overrated. Like, yeah, he's good. He can be exciting. Don't get me wrong. He can have games where he's on fire, but he's not consistent enough to play for a top team. I don't think.
Yeah,
that is my. That is. I've always had that feeling. Like, he had his chance. Obviously, he went to United. It never happened for him, and I think it didn't happen for a reason. Like,
well, there could be one reason, but we won't go into that. There's kids watching. Yeah. Yeah, I think as well with Palace, in the game, I think they had an opportunity really to expose our right-hand side, because I think any Spurs fan that has seen us this season will know that's been a bit of a weak area.
yes.
And I don't think they exploited it at all.
No,
you had
remember.
You had Schlupp on the left-hand side, and it's like, well, if you have Schlupp and then just bring Zaha over as well and just create a 2v1, virtually every time on that side, you're going to get some joy out of it. but I don't think they utilised that as much as they perhaps could have.
Well, that's the thing. I remember a few points when Zaha was over there, coming up against obviously Serge. And there was one where he's, I think, gone to control the ball or something, and then the ball just bounced off. It's like Adebayor, like I remember a few years ago. It's literally just bounced and gone the other way. I'm like, and I'm meant to be scared about this guy. He's coming up against possibly one of the worst right backs in the league, and he's like, that's, I'm back from my Serge comments. Um, like, yeah, and I just thought, come on, like, in some ways, I was wanting him to like actually show some excitement because the game was like that, if that makes sense. Obviously, I didn't want him to score, but I wanted to see some excitement, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And he just
a bit of
didn't
a
offer
spark.
anything.
Yeah.
He just frustrates me. And then he moans about the slightest touch. I'm like, oh my God. In some ways, I want to meet him on the street and literally just tap him on the shoulder. And if he turns around, just go, I think go down, mate. I just wanted to see if you went down. And start moaning to someone for about 10 minutes, you absolute fraud. Like, he just does my head in. Like, I personally think for Zaha, it's better for him to move out of the Prem because he obviously can't seem to handle the physicality because he's always moaning about it. He moans if he gets he moans if someone breathes on him, for crying out loud. Like, I just, yeah, he's exciting, but that's it. And 4 goals and 3 assists for someone who's worth 80 mil, apparently. Oh,
But I think
Jesus
as well, like
Christ.
in that Palace side, they don't score many goals anyway. Like I think there's that
Still,
the striker they've got out on loan, Sorolov or something, or Sorlov on loan at Trabzonspor's got as many goals this season or somewhere in and around that figure as Palace as a team have got all season. So
yeah, but that's the thing though. But it's because they don't create loads and loads of chances necessarily. But he should be one of them players who are creating them chances.
yeah,
That's the point I'm making, and he doesn't. Like you can say that obviously I can understand if he got loads and loads of assists, but he weren't getting loads of goals. You can say, well, he's the one who's creating the goals. So you've got that argument there because if he's not getting a service to get in areas where he can score, then you can be like, that's the reason why. But he's got this amount of assists. But that's shocking numbers. The amount of stick I give Serge Aurier, he's probably challenging Wilfried Zaha. That's not even a joke. Like I know Aurier this season's got a couple of goals, at least,
they probably have
and
more
he's got a few
assists.
assists.
Yeah, he might have more
Yeah, Serge Aurier has probably got more goal contributions than Wilfried Zaha. Obviously, I'm not sure if that's properly correct, but it's probably in and around the same. And I can tell you one thing for bloody certain: Serge Aurier is not worth 80 million. You know what I mean? And you can't even have the argument that Wilfried Zaha is an English player because obviously you have the English, where English players are valued higher, like Harry Maguire, for instance, because he doesn't. He plays for the Ivory Coast, so you can't even have that argument. Imagine if he was English. Well, play for England. Jesus Christ, you'll be talking over 100 mil. Oh, Jesus. Still would have been better than Pepe, though, all I'm saying. But yeah, apart from Zaha, yeah, no one stood out for me, I have to admit. I think it was quite a scrappy game. It's probably a midfield, it was around the midfielders, really. Harry Winks nearly scored a good own goal. That was a weird one, weren't it?
Yeah.
But no, there just wasn't anything. It's like nothing to report here. So, say if they come, Sky Sports commentary. We're coming over to you, Joe. Nothing to report here, Jeff. Okay. Like, there's nothing. Like, yeah. Sorry, folks.
It was a poor game, I must admit, but as I said, we got the job done, and I think that was the main thing. I think it would have been nice, perhaps, to finish with 3 points.
Yeah, I agree.
To end the season, and just make it a little bit more convincing because, I think there could have been, well, potentially there might have been a situation where, Wolves were in the game. Although I did speak to a friend of mine who's a Wolves fan and said that they didn't really turn up. So I was quite happy with that. So yeah, it just roll on Thursday nights yet again, and whatnot. Carabag, here we come. Let's have it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think there's positives to Europa League for season. You know, it can help get rid of some of the deadwood we've got in the team. Because as we both know for certain, obviously there's some people who don't understand or believe it. I don't really want to get onto that, but I probably will end up. Like we need to get rid of some of the players in the team. They're simply not good enough. Like that they aren't, and they have shown that this season. I don't care if you want to come at me and say, you know, some of these are the best players in the team. I will literally argue with you 24/7 if you want. I'll quit my job just to argue with you. Yeah, I've had enough of the nonsense. Like it's just rubbish. Like, you know, obviously the transfer window has opened now. Obviously, pretty much at the end of the game, and obviously there's rumours already flying around. And obviously this Højbjerg one is one which is obviously around every day, and that will probably happen. So I don't want to mention his name, or else we'll get loads of hate. But I want that guy out of our club as quick as anything. You're probably not sure actually what one I'm on about now. There's two of them in there.
Well, there's quite a few. There's quite a few. I would assume.
Well, yeah. Well, there's two who I obviously don't like.
Say it with chest, Joe. Come on. Say it with chest.
Say it with chest. Get rid of Sissoko.
Okay.
Like, because we can't get rid of Aurier yet, as much as it annoys me, because we don't have a right back. Like, you can't get rid of him if, well, you probably could. Daniel Levy, I am available. No, but yeah, get Sissoko out. I don't care. He's aging now as well. You know, he's 30. He's rubbish. Can't pass. Can't control. He's a dog playing fetch on a football pitch. Simple as that.
It's a great rationale. Just going, he's 30. He's rubbish.
Well, he is. He literally is. And like, I know. You know, if it was you on FIFA, mate, you'd be out the door. Obviously, with your theory, 30 and over, they're gone. But you would have been gone even if he was 24, mate. Jesus. God, I don't want to get onto another rant, but I'm feeling my blood boiling. It's not good, is it? You need to see a doctor. But yeah, he needs to go. We need to get either Højbjerg or anyone else in. I don't even care at this point. Obviously, Max Aarons is now being linked to Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
And people say he might not be good enough for us. Bayern Munich want him. Like, that might be a sign.
I think with the Aarons situation, with obviously the links to Bayern Munich, I think if he went to Bayern, my understanding is that it'd probably be back up to Benjamin Pavard, the French international.
Look, you love it. Look, we cannot ignore that. The amount you are loving that accent, what you just pulled off there.
So, but I think if he come to Tottenham, he'd be first choice. I think that's the subtle difference in the two sort of situations, really. But you know, obviously, when a club like Bayern Munich is sniffing, it's very, very difficult to turn it down. So, but I think the club will want to try and get that one in particular done, because I think we've missed out on players previously, like Wan-Bissaka, for example, was one that I was shouting about all sort of last season, just to go and get. Unbelievably good defending 1v1 situations. And as the Palace fans used to sing to him, you know, your wingers don't like him. So yeah, for me, Wan-Bissaka was one I think the club missed out on, and I don't think they want to do that again. The only difference is now is that obviously COVID's happened and we've lost a lot of money. So yeah, I think our transfer budget's probably going to be affected, but we can still have a decent window by getting in some good players and as you said, getting rid of certain ones that perhaps don't fit what Jose's after. Although saying that, I've had a lot of people saying to me that, Jose's done a good job without his players, all of this kind of thing. But then, and as I've mentioned to you and even to other people as well, there's been other managers that have gone in to other clubs without their own players and still achieved a little bit more than Jose has done. But listen, he's got us into Europe for next season. He's happy with that. I think by and large, majority of fans will be happy. I think, as you said, it's an opportunity for us to potentially win a European trophy. And I think he'll look to take it quite serious as well. I think he'll take the cup competitions quite serious as well. Not saying that Pochettino didn't take it serious, but I think you will see. Obviously, it's draw dependent, but I think with Mourinho, he's always taken the League Cup very, very seriously. Put out really strong sides throughout the rounds at the majority at Chelsea and United, and he likes to win that particular trophy as well, because that is usually the first trophy that he wins at the clubs, especially in England. So he usually likes to get one in early, and then the other success then builds, and then onto bigger and better. But no, I think the club is in an interesting position this summer. Probably one of the biggest summers that we've had as a football club. It seems to get like that every year, but I think this one is genuinely the biggest one, because I think if Jose doesn't get, I'm not going to say backed, but if Jose doesn't get, at least a couple of the players that he wants, then you got to start asking questions at the people upstairs and the people above, because you've brought this guy in to deliver. You've got to give him the tools to deliver, and don't have them tied behind his back. I think Pochettino had it to a certain degree, but I also think that Pochettino sometimes let himself down in terms of recruitment of players, because yes, everybody talks about Dele, Son, Alderweireld, players like that, but I think for that clutch of players, you then get Fazio, Stambouli, Clinton and G, Nkudu, Janssen, and other players, I think as well, that they've been brought in and it just simply has not worked like at all. So yeah, but I think like I said, I think this one's the big one this summer. I think it was a big summer anyway, but I think it's even bigger now given what's happened. So we're gonna have to be quite clever in the transfer market and try and get some players in that we need. That ball winning midfield is key. Right back key. And then I think the other positions are just maybe a centre back.
I think a left-sided centre back.
Or a left-footed centre. Yeah, I think a left-footed player that can play there. Would quite like Nathan Ake, to be fair, but he could be on his way to City, which is slightly unfortunate there. So yeah, now it's left-footed centre backs are a rarity. So it's always going to be tough trying to get one.
Yeah, I've heard of one who might be on a free at the minute. I think his name's Jan Vertonghen. Never know. Yeah. I've got a question for you here. It's on the transfer business.
Go on then.
Callum Wilson, yes or no? Reported. By the way, I'll add in a fee as well, which has been reported. 10 million.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes. At that price.
I agree.
At that price. Yes. There was talk of
I
Callum
wouldn't
Wilson.
go over 15.
Well, there was talk of Callum Wilson last summer going for 60, 70 million. So, I mean, if we got him for 10, that's obviously a massive, massive drop. I wouldn't spend too much on Callum Wilson because of his age, because I do believe he's sort of 28, 29 now. And
Around that
he's
age.
also had 2 massive knee injuries as well, which obviously stalled his career a little bit. But I think 10 million, it almost comes
Can't
under
go
the
wrong.
no-brainer category, really, if I think about, because he was English. So that's your homegrown quota player there. Striker, a position that we could do with, really. Would he be happy to be a backup to Harry Kane is the next question. Probably not, but then I think perhaps with the amount of games that we're playing, that little bit of more of rotation, I think it'd be a decent option. Hopefully, though, we have the capability to create some chances for him, because I think if you do create chances for him, he does take them, and he will put them away. Spurs fan as well, by the way,
Is he?
is Callum Wilson. Yeah,
Well, that might help with.
might do,
Right.
might do. But yeah, like I say, for me, it almost sort of falls in that no-brainer category. Premier League experience as well,
Exactly.
and has done well in terms of scoring a decent amount of goals. I'm not saying it's outrageous but I think, that healthy kind of 10 to 15 sort of mark. It's healthy, really.
Yeah.
And in a side that, all right, they've played up until this season, really had played some attractive football, and stuff like that. But yeah, no, for that price, I can't see why not. To be fair, I'd take him. I'd take him.
Yeah, that's the thing. I fully agree. I think it would be a decent little option there. I've always quite liked him. I think he's different to Harry Kane. Um, yeah, obviously he's completely different to Fernando Llorente. Obviously, we had Fernando Llorente as a different option to Harry Kane because he was. But then we've got Callum. Callum Wilson is still different from Harry Kane.
I think Wilson is in a similar sort of mould to Kane, though, in the sense that they are more all-rounded sort of strikers.
Yeah, but
Like,
I think Wilson's a bit quicker off the mark. Probably, likes to maybe try and get him behind that bit more.
yeah, but I think he could also do quite well with his back to goal, which is, I think it's a rarity to get a striker that can sort of do it all. I guess we're just lucky to have one that can. So I
Yeah,
think then getting another option's always difficult, because do we go for that target man like Llorente, or do we go for a small nippy centre forward? But I think Wilson, like I say, is probably a mix of all of those as well. Don't get me wrong, he's not the best with his back to goal, and he is better on the shoulder. But actually, if you need to, or if you need to get him to hold the ball up, I think he's not that bad at actually doing it. And yeah, as we said, 10 million is like nothing really in today's market. So yeah, like I said, I think that would be a really, really shrewd bit of business. The only thing is, I think, would be wages, because I think he's on quite a bit at Bournemouth, and he's not taking a pay cut at all.
I think you might take off a little bit, but it wouldn't be major. I don't think, because I think obviously with COVID, I think players might understand that a little bit more. Obviously, I'm not saying it's going to be massive, but maybe like a little bit. Especially if he's a Tottenham lad, you never know that you might think, I've got an opportunity to get back into the Premier League with my boyhood club here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I think at times that can help. And working with one of the best strikers, well, one of the best strikers in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you might be playing backup a lot, but you're working with him as well.
Hmm.
And I think that at times, gets looked over, because it's always the competition against Kane. But you are working with him as well.
Hmm.
It's not just And I think, strikers can learn a lot of him. Obviously, Callum Wilson is older than Kane. I believe so. Anyway, yeah, he is, isn't he? So, but he's still going to learn stuff off him. It's simple as that. And yeah, I think that'd be a good little move. Not too much money. It's not breaking the bank. Yeah, maybe even send a player out on loan to them or something as part of the deal. You know what Levy's like, obviously, because I know, like Skip, for example, I think they want to send them out to a championship club.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Fulham are the front runners.
But
Obviously,
it depends
they're in
if they get promoted, yeah.
Yeah. So I think Bournemouth might be a nice little team for him. Do you know what I mean? Because I could see, I think Lewis Cook will leave Bournemouth, to be honest. I think he's a Premier League player. I always quite like Lewis Cook. He's not good enough to play for like one of the top teams. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's like a mid-table Prem player. And I'd say if Fulham come up, for example, I could see Lewis Cook at a team like Fulham. I think, and obviously then they'd need to replace him. And if you've got Skip in there on loan, do you know what I mean? I think that could be a nice little bit of business. I think. Obviously, that is quite a lot of ifs and buts in there.
Yeah.
But I think there is quite a few possibilities in with that transfer. But obviously, no, there isn't really much else to say on the Crystal Palace game. To be fair, is there? Gone off topic, which I think we knew he was going to. But yeah, have you got any good transfer rumours? What you've seen? What you want to mention, or within the past few days?
No, well, obviously David Brooks, as well from Bournemouth, is a player that I really like. Really like
winger.
David Brooks. But well, he's a bit more of a 10, really. He was hoisted out wide really at Bournemouth just to play in off the lines. But when he was at Sheffield United, he was playing as a number 10 and excelled, and that's sort of what got his move to Bournemouth. But yeah, I mean, if you was to take one out of any of the relegated clubs, do you know what I mean? Who you taking? I'm going with Aarons, Ake, and Decore. To be honest, to be fair, I'd prefer Decore over Højbjerg, to be honest. But that's just me. I'm
not sure on Decore. I'm not sure because I think he gets rave reviews, and I've actually spoken. I know a few Watford fans, and they say that Decore is overrated. They say he's overrated, and that's a bit worrying. I know a couple, and they say Etienne Capoe's better than Decore. They've said that, and obviously that and it's not just people who watch the odd game. These are people I know one of them's a season ticket holder, so he watches him week in, week out, and yeah, I don't know. In some ways, I'd take I won't say that actually.
Who was it?
Have a guess from Watford if I stop myself from saying it.
Well, Ben Foster.
Yeah, I just think he's still actually a class keeper, and I think and I think he would give Lloris a bit of competition. Like he's a different type of goalkeeper to Lloris. Ben Foster isn't a sweeper keeper, so he doesn't have to be that bit younger, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It could be like a Brad Friedel situation.
Yeah.
Like I've always liked Ben Foster. He does make some cracking saves. Normally usually against us.
Yeah, I was going to say usually against us, yeah.
But he is a good goalkeeper, and I think a lot of people. He's probably my favourite Watford player. Norwich, there's a couple there who I'd take, to be honest.
I'd actually probably have half that Norwich team, to be fair.
But I'd take Aarons and Godfrey from them. Buendia as well is an absolute tidy player, by the way, but I just don't.
Cantwell as well.
Cantwell, I don't know. I think don't get me wrong, he's good, but he's not quite Carlin, as they say. And I think I just don't know about him. Like every time I've watched Norwich, I have tried to watch him closely, but
He's
I
probably been
don't.
on the bench when you've watched him.
No,
You
that's the
probably
thing.
know you're trying to watch him and just whack him on the bench.
That's the thing. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Norwich. Like, my dad used to live up there for a bit, and like my nan lives sort of near there, so I've always sort of had a bit of a soft spot for them, even when they were in the Championship. So if they were on TV, I did sort of watch them a bit. And I don't know, like, I don't know whether it's just me. I can't see what everyone else has been raving about. Yeah, he is good, but I don't know. I think Buendia's better than him. Buendia is a far better footballer than him. And it's probably because Campbell's English. People are getting excited.
But I think as well, because he's a little bit similar to Maddison. So they've obviously seen that Maddison's gone from, albeit from Coventry to Norwich, but, had a bit of a stint and then went and, on to bigger and better. And I think they're sort of seeing similarities with Campbell and probably drawing those comparisons. I actually quite like Jamal Lewis as well from Norwich. I think he's a good left back.
That'd be another one, I think, for rotation with Ben Davis. But in some ways, I do want to see, because obviously you've got Dennis Churkin, you've got Ryan Sessegnon, whether or not he uses him in there. Well, we don't know where he's going to use him or if he is going to use him. So I think left back, I think we can get away with. Because I think he does really like Dennis Churkin. He said it multiple times. And if he wants to bring up a youth player, if he wants to bring up a youth player, I absolutely love that, because that is what we want to see. And if the signing is then going to stop that, I think, especially at the minute, if we was in a Champions League, I think it'd be different. But I do think we have got a chance where we can breed a couple of young players into the first team picture again. Because you can play them in Europa League games, occasional cup games, depending on the opponents, obviously. Maybe Ben Davis more just a Premier League left back, because that will help his fitness as well. Because obviously Ben Davis has struggled with injuries. That might help both parties, and I think Ben Davis would actually probably quite like that in some ways. You might go, okay, so I'm the Premier League left back for this season. Obviously, might play a couple of Europa League games here and there, but mainly in the Premier League and the mainstay for the Premier League. I think he would quite like that, because he's never had that at Tottenham, really. So I think he'd quite like that. I think Dennis Churkin would obviously like it, because he's getting in the first team picture. So yeah, happy days. And I think that's what's going to happen with the left back. I can't see us signing one. I think right back. I think this is what we're going to sign. A right back. I reckon we are going to sign a holding midfielder and a striker. And then obviously, I reckon 3. I reckon we're only going to sign 3.
Well, we've been linked with that South Korean centre half as well, haven't we?
Yeah, but I've got a feeling we aren't going to sign a centre half, thinking about it, because as Foyth apparently wants to stay and fight for his place, which, by the way, I love. For a player to come out and say, because I saw something earlier where he was talking to Argentinian, something to do, out there, and he was saying, if I get the chance to stay and fight for my place, that's what I want to do. Absolutely love that, because it shows that he's hungry, that he wants to fight. And the amount of centre backs that we do have at the club, I think, gets overlooked. Like, we've got obviously Toby, Dyer, Sanchez, Tanganga, Foyth. That's 5 centre halves. I think you can get away with that a bit now. Obviously, we need to get a set partnership in there. I think that's been our main problem. Because we've been mixing and changing. We need to get a solid back 2 in there, and that is the partnership. Because I think that is the foundations of a good centre-back partnership. If you mix and change it, they can't then work together as well. That's why Toby and Jan were so good together in their prime, because they played together for Belgium. Obviously Jan played left back a fair bit, but still they're playing together regularly. you know what I mean? I think that helps. That is so underrated and goes so unnoticed. And I think that is something what needs to be done. And I think Dyer is a mainstay in there. I think is starting Dyer straight up against Palace as soon as his 4-match game ban was done. That is a statement. That Dyer is his main centre half. Then it's between Toby and Sanchez. I personally prefer Toby. I think I've said my feelings on Sanchez. He's too inconsistent for me. Yeah, but would you agree with that?
Agree with your point on Dyer in the fact that Jose's made a bit of a statement there, bringing him back in sort of straight away. And I did look at it and I was a bit surprised. I'm not going to lie. I quite like Sanchez as a centre half. He gets away with a lot, though, I must admit. He gets away with a lot. Just having flashbacks to Everton away, the 6-2, and he's absolutely shoved Calvert-Lewin in the back and doesn't get anything. Like, well, the referee doesn't give anything, and stuff like that. So I was just there like, what? But yeah, no, I do like Sanchez. I think he's quick for a centre back as well. But yeah, I think it's been a difficult season for everybody at the club. Don't get me wrong, but I think in particular he's had a bit of a rough time. But I think he'll come good in the next couple of seasons, I think. But you know, when he first came, I thought he was magnificent. And yeah, I think he's just dipped a little bit, I guess, as the team have dipped, and then hopefully we're all going to come out the other side and you know, sort of be better for this dip, really. But yeah, no, like I say, I think definitely having a settled back line helps. I actually think this is probably the one time that I've seen Mourinho actively really chopping and changing that back line, the back four. Didn't really do it too much at United unless he had to. Very rarely done it at Chelsea. Very rarely done it at Chelsea. And I think that's what their solid foundation was built on, that sort of back five of Cech, Ferreira, Carvalho, Terry and Ashley Cole. So yeah, I think just get a bit of you know, get us all settled. Now that the madness is all sort of over with for now. Now we can just sort of have a little bit of a break, settle down a little bit, ready to come back for next season. And we need to push on and we need to kick on massively, because we could end up stagnating pretty bad and pretty hard. And I think if we do that, then, you know, what we've been building towards these last few years will just count for absolutely nothing. It feels like it has the potential to head that way anyway. And, you know, people could argue that it already has, but I think we've got maybe 1 or 2 years left at sort of being at this kind of level that we're at. And then I think the next sort of year or two is going to define us like as a football. Like, are we going to be that nearly team for however long, or are we right? We had that sort of period, and then we've eventually won something, and got over the line to win something. But I think that will happen. I think in the next 2 years, I think that's going to be key for us in terms of changing the mentality at the club. I think we've probably got the best manager to do it. You know, I think everybody's seen the little clip of that's going to be on the documentary, which is still getting replayed, and I absolutely love it, especially with the Paul Merson bit attached to it in the beginning about him speaking about Harry Kane. So yeah, no, that's like I say, Mourinho. That's the sort of evidence that I mean in terms of shifting the mentality of and the mindset of the players. Perhaps, you know, be a bit less brutal about it, Jose. But no, that's what he's there to do. It seems a bit of like, obviously Jose coming in was a strange one anyway, but it's like he's not there to make friends, and I get that sense a lot, that he's not there to, he's there to do a job basically. And I think that's been a massive contrast, because Pochettino, it was more of a family environment and big togetherness in terms of the culture at the football club. I'm not saying Jose's come in and torn all that apart, because I think, it'd be stupid to do that. And I think I've seen a clip of what will feature on the Amazon documentary. I think it's an interview with Delhi. And I think they're all in the lodge. I think there's a few of them having a game of FIFA. So it seems like that togetherness is there, is coming back now, because I feel like we had lost it a little bit. But like I say, I think Poch sort of loved everybody, whereas, like I say, Jose, it feels like Jose's coming in, doing what he's got to do, and then he's gonna go whenever, if at end of his contract or get his P45, either way. But yeah, I just sort of get that vibe with Mourinho, that he's there not to make friends, he's there to do a job, and I'm going to do that job to the best of my ability. And I'm going to probably leave with a pot or two on the table.
Well, I just want to quickly go on to that, because obviously I mentioned about Foyth talking to the media. He's pretty much said that Mourinho's come in, that he's actually a really decent person. He's actually friendly with everyone, even with Juan, who has barely played. Well, he hasn't played since the restart, has he? He's been out of the picture, even when he's been fit. But apparently he's been class. So I think that's a bit harsh, saying that he hasn't tried to make friends or anything. Like, I think
Listen,
I'm
not saying that
people.
it's just the vibe I get from Mourinho. It's
yeah. I think I get that, but I think the only one who he hasn't is Ndombele. Apart from that, I think it's all been all right. But yeah, yeah. I think that's it now. To be fair, isn't it?
Pretty much, I'd say so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, guys. That is another Only One Hotspur podcast. Make sure you let us know your thoughts, especially on the transfers, what we talked about, because there wasn't anything to say on the game. And all the little things what we said about that. Obviously, you can say that in the YouTube comments, but making sure you subscribe to the channel as well and liking the video, turn the notification bell on as well. You can follow us on all social media, leave a comment on one of our posts, or message the page. And our social media is at Only One Hotspur. And yeah, this podcast will be on Spotify as well. So make sure you follow us on there. But until next time, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.